today's video, we are reacting to Kanye West finally receives his wake up call. You know what I'm saying? I remember back in the day, a couple years ago, Kanye West was running rampant. They were saying he was crazy, he's delusional, he's out of his mind, he needs to go to a mental health institution, etc., this and that. You know what I'm saying? But you know what I'm saying? Now we don't really, I haven't really heard too much about Kanye, you know? So I'm not really sure what this wake up call is about. But with that being said, let's go to get to the video and see what it is about, you know?
West is back on an apology tour, and this time it's a little bit different. Not only is it to the Israelite community or the Jewish community, but also it's to the black community. And I want to read a little bit of this apology. I lost touch with reality. Things got worse the longer I ignored the problem. I said and did things I deeply regret. I regret and am deeply mortified by actions in that state and am committed to accountability, treatment, and meaningful change. It does not excuse what I did, though. I am not a Nazi or an anti-Semite. I love Jewish people. This is a full page placement, which was paid in the Wall Street Journal. Now, this is interesting because he basically could have put this particular placement in any other place. New York Times, he could have put it there, in BET, any black news website, but he put it in the Wall Street Journal. Now I want to give a shout out to the canary.co. Vanessa Viljoen wrote a very, very good article. I want to give a shout out to her. She says it herself. Kanye West put this placement because the Wall Street Journal is read by investors, executives, advertisers, and institutional decision makers who make up its core readership. These are the people who determine whether a public figure remains commercially viable. He also
essentially they're saying that this nigga is sucking up to get back in the graces of good people. Basically,
blame his mental health narratives, bipolar, things like this, right? But now I want to focus basically on the black community because Brother Tariq Nasheed would come out and make some really, really interesting points about Kanye West in his situation.
Bro, my nigga, what the fuck this nigga got going on with them glasses, bro? What the fuck is this nigga got on bad bitch glasses? Come on, folks.
In his situation.
But Kanye has realized he's become a man without a base. He doesn't have a base no more. All those stunts and all that inflammatory talk and trying to court those reactionary crowds. He's ended up basically politically and culturally homeless. The album flopped. He put out an album that didn't do nothing. Yeah, that album flopped. And the thing is, you can't survive as a black artist without a real community base behind you. See, you can't float off controversy forever. You know, that's what some of these internet dudes do. They think they're just going to say and do controversial stuff, and that'll get hot for a quick minute, but then you got to keep doing controversy. You got to keep doing controversial stuff, and then it gets played. It becomes it looks like a finesse. The shock value wears off, and then you're going to have to bring some substance.
So this is something that I want to talk about. Many people who become MAGA, and again, I'm a registered Republican, but I'm not MAGA, right? I'm a black person that votes on the right, but I'm more culturally black American, or B1, if anything else. And then I try to resonate with my black audience, whether that be black men or women or whatever. In the case of Kanye West, he is culturally homeless. He did something that so many people do, which is number one, try to chase clout. This is no different than Anton Daniels. It's no different than Tommy Sotomayor, Fresh and Fit. All of these people who, by the way, built some really great audiences with the black community, and then decided that the black community was simply not enough. And instead of engaging in the black grassroots, what they decided to do was to go elsewhere. And when you go out there and go elsewhere and become, like more self-sabotaging towards the black community, which we saw, with Kanye West, what slavery was a choice and things like that. Well, what happens is you alienate your base, okay? And when you alienate your base that has been supporting you, and I've seen many black people do this. I've seen black businesses do it. You know, I've seen content creators do it. And obviously, people just say, you know, I'm just tired of dealing with, you know, the blacks, and I want to go and spread my wings. And then at a certain point, going and spreading my wings means I must down my community. I remember Brother Polite would started to do that. You know, he would start to alienate his base when he started to, you know, get big and go to California and buy these cars. And he would talk about, you know, New York and black New York in a very negative way. And so what happens is people remember that. Now we got to understand, as black people, we really don't appreciate what we have. We have all the talent. We have, in the black community alone, so much money. Everything that you want to do can be achieved by Black America alone. But then it's a problem if you are really considered to have roots or in the black grassroots. And then that seems like you can't be a global phenomenon. So what happens is you see so many celebrities, entertainers try to extend outward to get a, you know, more general base. And they believe that, hey, being somebody else and not being who I am is what's going to get me there. When in fact, being who you are is what made you, you know?
Exactly. Like, look at Speed. You know, I don't feel like nobody considers Speed like a over sellout kind of guy. I feel like, I don't know, actually. Like, well, obviously Speed is black, you know, but I don't know. Speed doesn't really like. I guess at most you could say he acts ignorant. Maybe you could say that, but I don't want to say that being you, bro. You could turn your situation out. Granted, Speed, you know, that is a one in a million type of nigga, but I mean, I feel like people would agree so to Kanye. You know, but you might not like Kanye, but we can respect that he's, you know, done a lot of great things with music and clothes and stuff like that. So, yeah, and he got that far by just being himself. So
people chase the clout and don't chase being consistent. All right. And then Tariq would point this out.
You lended them your clout and it wasn't reciprocal. You didn't get anything out of it. You damaged your career. See, he confused viral attention with real support. See, them alt-right spaces, they gave Kanye attention, interviews, headlines, outrage, clicks. But attention, ladies and gentlemen, it is not infrastructure. It doesn't translate to tours. Doesn't translate to ticket sales. That's not fan devotion. And he learned the hard way that being talked about is not the same as being held down. Somebody's really, really, truly supporting you. You know, and all that slavery was a choice stuff. That was him, you know, trying to audition for that Candace Owens.
Nigga, that's that Uncle Ruckus ass shit. Nigga, how was that shit a choice? Bro, like I said all the time, I joke all the time with certain people, they don't put a G19 to your head and tell you to do this, but back in the day, that's basically what they did. They said, listen, boy, you gonna do what I tell you, or we gonna beat you. How the fuck was that? So if I did that, how was that a choice? I guess you guys either chose to do it or to be unalive. I guess, you know, but like, no logical reasoning person is gonna say that shit was a fucking choice. If you do think that shit was a choice, you are brainwashed or something, brother. You need help.
Crowd, you know, it was like him signaling to the alt-right that he's going to publicly disrespect black historical reality.
He would say something that is interesting. That Kanye West's last album kind of flopped. You lost your Adidas partnership. Your behavior does not translate to ticket sales. It doesn't translate to tours being booked, right? And to be honest, if you look at Tariq, you look at Corey Holcomb, you can look at Dr. Umar Johnson, you can look at Boyce Watkins. Despite what you want to say about any of those four men, they have consistently been able to do something offline, remain relevant, and sell, okay? All of those people. Corey Holcomb with comedy, Tariq Nasheed with raising money, Dr. Boyce Watkins with the all-black national convention. You can look at Dr. Umar Johnson being booked all around the black world and on podcasts. Because being consistent within your niche is better than selling out someplace. This is one of the reasons why when you find Corey Holcomb going live, you're going to get 20,000 live, 15,000 live. And then some of these guys chase views And they may have a larger audience like Officer Tatum. He got like 4 million followers, but nobody would ever believe that Officer Tatum is on the same level as Corey Holcomb. And so what happens is that you end up chasing clout, but that's not being held down, all right? You end up and then, thinking that you're going someplace, but then you're not. And then what happens is that community can drop you because you don't have anything invested into them as you did in the black community. Now what Kanye West is trying to do is trying to basically come back to the black community. And most of us probably understand that he will go head on and crash out again, but he's not viable anymore. And it all comes back to being too expensive to deal with. All right? It's all it is. Just too expensive to deal with. Ultimately, that's what it is. He's always been too expensive to deal with. The blacks don't want to deal with you. Now, that's bad when the blacks typically are the most forgiving. Look at Dr. Umar Johnson. Look at all the problems that he's had. If Dr. Umar Johnson was not black American or historically African American, whatever you want to call him, he would be already canceled. But because Dr. Umar Johnson is black, unapologetically black, that framework that he uses has been consistent, even though his behavior has not. He will always have some level of an opportunity in the black community. And the black community is large. We gotta stop acting like the black community. Black America is large. The black diaspora is large. It is a heavyweight, okay? You got, black London, you got black Europe, you got Africa in its own, black Germany, black America. It's so much opportunity within those things. But then when you become Kanye West and you're close to being 50, you're not being talked about, time passes you by, people don't want to deal with you because you're a brand risk, because you are a person that can't be counted on to be consistent, your framework is bad. And then let me just say this, nobody wants to hear that. For an example, I'm going through a mental health episode. I want to blame it on a mental health episode. And that's why. So people are going to look at you and say, okay, well, you're having a mental.
It's so unfortunate people too that use that thing, because it's one thing, because you can't really tell somebody generally going through some mental health stuff. Like, I remember when Ben Simmons was going through what he was going through in the NBA, and everybody was getting on his ass about it. And it's like, I feel like some people, they genuinely do really have issues and they do need help. And some people, I feel like they just milk that shit and just abuse the whole, oh, my mental health was bad, that's why I did X, Y, Z, Z, Z. You know what I'm saying? And it's unfortunate for people who are faking it, staying credit for people who actually genuinely do really need help with their mental health, bro. On a serious note.
Mental health episode, but you're rich, right? You're rich, so there is no reason why you should not have a mental health episode. You should be able to do just that. So what's the problem? Why can't you do that? Doesn't make sense. You have a mental health episode. So this is this is what somebody is talking about. These are the issues. So ultimately, I feel sorry for the guy, but it is what it is. But guys, what do you think? It's your boy.
But with that being said, we're going to go and wrap up the video. Y'all let me know your thoughts on the situation in the comment section below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We are on our way to 1K subs. Currently at 182. So if you hit that subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it. And until next time, peace.